As your governor, I make this pledge. Wisconsin is open for business.
Challenging Governor Walker on job creation.
And Art for Gallery Night.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Black Nouveau. I'm Milton Dockery.
And I'm Faithe Colas. We're glad you could join us. This week, we'll preview Milwaukee's upcoming Evening of Stars in support of the United Negro College Fund and highlight the sculpture of artist Chakaia Booker at the Milwaukee Art Museum.
We'll talk with the head of MICAH, Milwaukee Inner City Congregations Allied for Hope, about the group's plan to bring jobs to the area.
But first, we begin with Gallery Night, a 23-year-old celebration of the arts. Liddy Collins has more.
4 times a year, the Milwaukee art community makes a special effort to showcase artists' work. This is a time where the art galleries make a big push with a big welcome, along with others interested in art.
Some of the museums participate, but also you may find coffee shops, restaurants, framing places that have, artwork. For example, this particular gallery night, there's 2 other exhibition that feature African American artists, Kevin Boatwright at Red Line, and on Harambee on King Drive. They're going to feature, I believe, a King Shiju, Chris Williams.
For 21 years, the Peltz Art Gallery, located on Milwaukee's east side in this circa 1885 house, has brought art to the Milwaukee community and annually participates in Gallery Night. This gallery, run by Sissy Peltz, a retired cartoonist, has made sure artists, regardless of their persuasion, have had a location to showcase their work.
We like to think we're a gallery of diversity too. We've had African American artists since we started. There have always been some. We had Native American. We had Native American artists. We had a show of Native American art at one point, and we have a lot of group shows.
For this gallery night, the Peltz Art Gallery asked artist Della Wells to be the curator for their Gallery Night exhibit.
I think one of the roles of the curator is really to look and see what work is out there, and they may come up with a specific theme. They may look, it may be by media. It may be, for example, like this show, looking at African American art. It can be for any host of reason. And it's really to educate the public. It's also to, scholarly, for, some cases it's scholarly to look at what is being produced, what the intent and context. And that's something that I feel get lost in the conversation here in Milwaukee, is intent and context of which the artist is creating, producing work. You'll see a wide range of African American art and artists. My intent with this is really to show a diverse group of work, because a lot of times people they have a preconceived notion what art is and what African American artists produce. You'll see things from quilts, photography, collage, folk art. There's artists who happen to be teachers in the university here, some in the school system. But you'll see a wide range of art. And one of my purpose with this exhibition is get a discussion. What is African American art, and is African American art solely defined by race? For me, African American art is it's all things. The artist just happened to be African American.
I just think art is so important to everyone, and from what I see, from what Della has shown me, and Evelyn Terry over the years too has brought so many people in to meet me, and I've been very impressed with the kind of art that has been produced, from the outsider artists, to the people who have been trained now. I think we've got some really good things here.
This year's Gallery Night event takes place on January 21st and 22nd. For more information, log on to www.historicthirdward.org.
For decades now, the United Negro College Fund has offered higher educational opportunities for African American students who attend historically black colleges and universities. Joining me is Julietta Henry, co-chair of this year's Milwaukee's Evening of Stars Phone-A-Thon. Welcome, Julietta.
Thank you so much for having me today.
You're welcome. Let's talk about this year's fundraiser. What is it about and what can we expect and when?
Sure. In Wisconsin, we have developed a Phone-A-Thon campaign in conjunction with the local super viewing of the Evening with Stars. And we're so excited. This year, the tribute will be to Chakaia Booker, and it airs across the country on January 29th and 30th. Our Phone-A-Thon will actually start, we'll kick it off on this week, Friday, and it would go until the 27th. And then on the 28th, we will have a red carpet event where we will feature those individuals who have participated in the Phone-A-Thon, and we will acknowledge those who raised over $1,000.
Well, I'm a Chakaia Booker fan. And everybody that's a Chakaia Booker fan, reach back, grab your friends, and be a part of supporting United Negro College Fund. Let's talk about why UNCF is important to Milwaukee.
Sure. UNCF is important across the country. It has grown to become the nation's oldest and most successful minority higher education assistance organization. We support nationally over 65,000 students who attend more than 900 institutions across the country. And these are institutions of higher learning education throughout the nation. UNCF has become they're nationally committed to recruit the support of individuals in an effort to assist with raising funds for students who are in need, and that is what we're doing at this year's fundraiser. We're trying to increase and raise funds to increase the needs of financially challenged minority students and to provide institutional support for the 39 historically black colleges and universities.
Now, of those 65,000 students, approximately how many attend UNCF universities and colleges from Milwaukee this year?
Well, I believe our records approximately, we have 175 students who have listed with our organization and who attend universities and institutions across the country.
And the students usually attend four-year colleges. I mean, they start with UNCF and they go through the whole 4 years.
That is correct.
Okay. What's the goal this year?
Well, our goal this year is to raise $50,000, and we can do that with the support of every member in this community. And we're encouraging you to participate by becoming a star panelist and or donating funds to this year's campaign.
So $50,000 for approximately 175 students, that's really a wonderful way to support. It's not a lot of money.
Right, well, we have the program we're doing is the Wisconsin Student Aid Scholarship Program. We raise funds through other means as well. Okay. Corporations give to this actual fund, and the monies are allocated to students. For example, we've had seniors contact us last year, and we gave out 10 scholarships in 09 through 10 in the amount of $104,000 in disbursements we're giving out, and we give out scholarships anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000.
When will the telecast be on?
The telecast it will air on the 29th as well as the 30th. Across the country. You should check your local listing. It will be aired on BET as well as WGN.
And how can people find out how they can support it and get more information about UNCF?
Sure, you can support UNCF by going on our website at www.uncf.org, or you can contact our office at area code 414-372-6700.
Thank you, Julietta, for joining us.
Thank you.
Chakaia Booker is an African-American artist whose sculptures are made from found objects and industrially fabricated materials. Liddy Collins has more.
Located on the shore of Lake Michigan in downtown Milwaukee is the Milwaukee Art Museum, where art is constant and changing. For those who haven't visited the museum lately, what should one expect?
Expect the unexpected.
How has the museum changed over time?
Well, the biggest change in recent history was, of course, the addition of the Calatrava wing, but that was almost 10 years ago. 2011 will be the 10th anniversary of the Calatrava building. But more recently, we've started to do a series of exhibitions that we used to do called On Site. And that's the Chakaia Booker show is the most recent edition of that. So we're bringing in contemporary artists to do site-specific installations in the Calatrava building. We also have the great work by Robert Therian, Under the Table, the enormous dining room table. It's fabulous.
Tell us a little bit about the artist Chakaia Booker?
Chakaia Booker. Chakaia is a New York-based artist who uses found objects, principally tires, to create her sculptures. And I've been aware of her for a number of years, and when I came to the Milwaukee Art Museum 2 years ago and the director said, we need to do more shows in these gallerias, I thought, well, I have the perfect artist, Chakaia Booker.
What kind of exhibit is the Chakaia Booker exhibit?
So this is on-site, site-specific art, and there's really a dialogue between Chakaia's work and the Calatrava building. So Chakaia uses only found tires for the most part. She has a factory building that is her studio, and she cuts these tires by hand and reassembles them and weaves them. She studied basket making and textiles and dance, and you kind of get a sense of that when you look at the sculptures. There's an incredible sense of energy and motion and pattern and almost human-like forms. But there's also a great physicality to them. It's a very physical process that she uses in creating the sculptures. So they have a real energy and dynamism that I think is in contrast to the beautiful, quiet elegance and the kind of static quality of the Calatrava building. And also with Chakaia, when she's using these industrial materials, it's very suggestive of the working classes or of the African American experience. So I think that's an interesting dialogue in terms of the pristine architecture of the Calatrava building. So it's a really interesting kind of layered dialogue occurring between the building and the art.
Chakaia Booker fits into the continuum of contemporary art. She invented her own process of going out and finding out things in urban areas and adorning herself with them.
She actually gets up and sculpts herself in the morning. She creates a textile sculpture headdress, and she's a large woman and very imposing, and when she puts on this headdress, she's about 10 feet tall. And when you see her walking, you see the motion. It reminds you very much of the sculpture, so you can see how it's all tied together.
Which of her pieces really stand out for you?
Well, I really like the sculpture that's placed in the rotunda. When you walk out of the parking garage into the museum, you see the first Chakaia Booker work, and we've gotten a lot of feedback on that, so people really like it. And I mentioned to you before that the first day we did that, 2 people crawled inside the sculpture, and that's been the problem with this exhibition. It's so inviting, people want to touch everything, and we don't necessarily like that, but I'm glad people are engaged with the art. There's another work called Empty Seat, and it's a giant sort of relief sculpture. It looks more two-dimensional, and it's huge. It kind of burst out between 2 of the ribs of the Calatrava sculpture of the architecture, and that piece weighs over a ton. It's just such an impressive, beautiful, kind of all-over composition. It's one of my favorite works in the show.
What should one not miss when they come to the museum?
Well, we have a great permanent collection. This is the major art museum in the state of Wisconsin. It's also one of the largest museums in the region. We have very important collections of modern and contemporary art. We've just reinstalled our contemporary collection, and we have a major new acquisition by a photographer named Thomas Struth. And he's one of the leaders in monumental photography. This is the largest photograph you'll ever see. It's 9 by 11 feet, one photograph. It's absolutely stunning. A number of people don't know that on the 2nd floor we have incredible works of 20th century art. We have a whole gallery devoted to Georgia O'Keeffe, beautiful paintings. The Bradley collection, this is the O'Keeffe paintings are part of the Bradley collection, and it's a world-class collection of modern and contemporary art. Also, on the 2nd floor, we have the best collection of Haitian art outside of Haiti. It's an extraordinary thing that was donated by one collector to the museum, and it's unique. You wouldn't see that anywhere else outside of Port-au-Prince. So it's in my mind, it's a must-see.
What's coming next?
Well, the next major exhibition will be Frank Lloyd Wright. It's an exhibition that I've been working on for over a year with the Frank Lloyd Wright Foundation in Scottsdale. We have a very active contemporary program. One of the artists that I'm really keen on right now is Isaac Julian, and he's an African-European artist. He's based in London, and he does video installation. And he uses film the way a painter uses paint and canvas. So every scene is beautifully composed, and they're just powerful, beautiful video installations. So look for that in the future too.
We will work tirelessly to restore economic growth and vibrancy to our state. My top priorities are simple: jobs, jobs, and more jobs. We will right-size state government by ensuring that government is providing only the essential services our citizens need and our taxpayers can afford.
During his inauguration, Governor Scott Walker promised jobs, jobs, and more jobs, and less government. While he was laying out his agenda, hundreds of Wisconsinites were outside of the Capitol protesting his opposition to the proposed high-speed rail. We're joined now by Reverend Willie Brisco, Associate Minister of New Covenant Missionary Baptist Church, and the head of MICAH, Milwaukee Inner City Congregations Allied for Hope, which was a co-sponsor of the protest. Reverend Brisco, welcome, sir.
Thank you. Pleased to be here.
Thank you. Reverend Brisco, what was the purpose of the protest, sir?
The purpose of the protest was he was promising 250,000 jobs. Well, we just feel that he started 15,000 in the hole by canceling the high-speed rail, the Talgo situation at the old A.O. Smith Tower Automotive site. Those were jobs that we had, jobs that were promised, that were being delivered. And he took them away from an institution, from the inner city that was desperate for those jobs. We had met with Talgo and had told them about the history of that site and what A.O. Smith had done for that site and what Tower had done for that site and how it had improved the community, how we were looking forward to rebuilding. They were sympathetic to what we talked about, and they understood the history.
Now, was the purpose of the protest to get him to change his mind? Governor Scott Walker?
Well, it was twofold. It was to let him know that he didn't represent all the people. Mm-hmm. And the other one was to let him know that was never going to be forgotten, that we were never going to forget that betrayal, that what we had felt that it was a third abandonment. First there was A.O. Smith, then Tower Automotive left, then there was Hope with Talgo, and then he dashed that. That will never be off our plate.
So Reverend Brisco, what's next then, sir, as it relates to the high-speed rail?
What's next is for the high-speed rail is we can continue to keep that on the forefront, because that high-speed rail is not only a citywide or a statewide, that's a global and a national thing, that America does not have a high-speed rail system. Every industrialized country has one except for the United States.
What other jobs initiatives is MICAH working on?
Well, we have a coalition that was working on the transitional jobs that came out of the Family and Children's Act, another part of the stimulus. We have 2,000 jobs that MICAH is sitting on a board that we have distributed through 7 vendors in Milwaukee, such as SDC, the MarWeb, the YWCA. They have temporary jobs, 6-month span, that we have 2,000 of those slots now that we are actually having training and distribution that they are having in the city at this moment.
How can people get more information about these 2,000 jobs?
They can get information. They can call MICAH at 264-0805. They can call the YWCA. They can call MarWeb. They can call UMOS, or they can call SDC, and they can call the Salvation Army. These are all vendors that have slots for these jobs.
Reverend Brisco, talk about your group. Who are the members of MICAH?
MICAH is 34 congregations made up of different denominations. We're from all walks of life. We even have Quakers. We have the Muslims. We have Catholics. We have Lutheran. We do not discriminate. This is what we consider to be God's church. Different denominations fighting for one thing: social justice for all people, those people who don't have a voice.
So social justice is primarily your mission?
Social justice is our primary mission. With MICAH, we deal with 4 basic issues that we think all of the ills of the community fall under. That is jobs and economics, education, alcohol and drugs treatment, which is TIP, treatment instead of prisons, and immigration.
Well, you've talked about the jobs component. Let's talk about alcohol and drugs and work through a few of the other initiatives. Talk about the alcohol and drugs initiative you have.
That is one, because I was a 23-year veteran of working in the Milwaukee County Correctional System. And we have known for 200 years that the system of jailing and prisons that we have does not work. We have 70% of the people in jail are for alcohol or drug treatment. Do you know how much money that is that's taken away from education, taken away from everything else in our community? If we put those people in treatment where they belong, get those people the help that they need, instead of treating it as a criminal offense, treating it as an illness that it is, then we could take that money and we could use it for other things, education, we could use it for better our communities. But the public wants to think that you're letting out criminals, you're letting out people who don't deserve to get out. I've met some people in jail who I wouldn't ever want to see out on the street before. But that's the minority. That's a small amount. There are people in there who, for nonviolent offenses, who could be served better by being treated, by getting over their addiction, becoming a more prosperous and participating member in society.
Talk about your education efforts.
The education efforts this is an initiative that we have started. We have a model in the Hopkins Street School now. We believe in the community schools. We would like to bring the schools back to the community, make them a part of the community, a collaboration between parents, teachers, the religious organization, and the community organization, working as one to make sure that the children are getting the proper education and that they're being watched and nurtured by all phases. And also the schools would be a part for the parents too, because the parents need to be educated on how they need to assist their children now. So that's the model that we're working on.
What about immigration?
Immigration, that is one. Every time we speak about immigration, people want to think that it's Hispanics coming across the border. Immigration covers the whole gamut of people who are trying to come to this country for a better life. If you look at this country, we're all immigrants. We all came here by some other means. But now we want to close that door to people who are actually trying to better their lives, trying to come out of poverty. The same reason that my parents came from the South to the North was for a better life. We have to be sympathetic to people that we know that are in need. That is what I am focusing on from a perspective of God and religion.
Reverend, very briefly, in Racine, we have the Racine Interfaith Coalition. In Milwaukee, you have MICAH. How are the two related?
The two are a part of a state organization called Wisdom. And we have other affiliates in Green Bay, Eau Claire, and up in Madison, they're starting one. We have one starting in Manitowoc and Appleton. These are all affiliates of a state organization called Wisdom. Wisdom is a part of a national organization called Gamaliel, which is not only national, but it's international.
Reverend, if people want more information, how can they go about getting it, sir?
They can go on the internet. That MICAH has a website that's up, that's just been put up and going. You can also find out about us by going on the NAACP website, who we have an affiliation with. And the MICAH office number is 264-0805. We have an office manager there who is willing to take all phone calls, because we're looking to expand the organization.
Reverend Brisco, thank you for joining us, sir.
My pleasure.
And while we're on the subject of jobs, we want to remind you that Milwaukee Public Television kicks off its Finding Work initiative with the premiere edition of Jobs next Wednesday, January 26th at 9 p.m.
Jobs is the broadcast component to a year-long effort that MPTV and a number of community partners are engaged in to help improve the employment climate in Wisconsin. Here's a preview from the first episode.
I work at National Podorthic Services, and I do halfway trimming and putting material on for diabetic inserts and for normal inserts for patients here at NPS.
Lateef Strong has worked for National Podorthic Services for almost 3 years. Before that, he spent 4 years in prison for drug possession.
When I went to prison, I made a decision that I was not going to come out and do the same things that I did before I went in. And I also promised myself and I promised my family that I was not going back to prison. And so what I had to do was just follow my new mindset and stick to that, and stick to the plan that I laid out for myself.
Lateef's plan has worked well for him. Many ex-offenders are not as fortunate and have a hard time finding employment when they return to society.
Community just needs to start looking at these guys and give them an opportunity. They're not bad people, they've made bad decisions. And some people have made bad decisions in their life and they just haven't been incarcerated for it. So I don't think they need to be looked at as stowaways, or castaways. They need to be looked at as people who need an opportunity to be resurrected and be helped in life to make a change. And that helps with sometimes just giving them a little push.
27-year-old Megan Niskowiak of Milwaukee has a burning desire to be a full-time teacher. Megan is certified to teach 6th through 12th grade English. Her statewide search has been challenging.
It's basically a full-time job. I've been searching since last January when I finished up schooling through the present, and there just isn't really any jobs out there. I'm applying statewide and I'm having no luck really.
The process can be emotionally draining and physically exhausting.
There's extensive questioning for each school that I apply for. Everyone has different requirements, so one application can take me a couple hours.
I mean, a great many people become homeless through natural disasters, domestic abuse, foreclosure, financial irresponsibility. I mean, they lost their jobs because of layoffs, plant closings, or this, downsizing and outsourcing. All these things put you in that big black hole called homelessness. And just because you lost your address doesn't mean that you lost your skills, your talents. They don't disappear and you become an idiot. I've been living out of a backpack for 6 months now, trying to find a new place, trying to get some honest work. So, welcome to the misadventures of the homeless handyman.
We'll have more on jobs and the Finding Work Initiative next week.
And that wraps up this edition of Black Nouveau.
Remember, in the coming week, do something to expand your world. Good night.
Good night.